You ever catch a kid sitting quietly, flipping through their first real chapter book like it's sacred? Like they're holding the Ark of the Covenant, and you think, okay, we've graduated from Brown Bear, but we are not ready for Hatchet. So where are we? We're right here, actually, in the murky, magical space in between picture books and full-blown novels. The place where readers start flying solo, but still need scaffolds. And that space, it's where we're heading next. I'm Nick. This is Dr. Cranky Pants Reads, and this video is your bridge. We've just wrapped up our deep dive into picture books, how they're structured, how they guide readers, and how they land emotional punches with a few well-placed lines and thought-provoking illustrations. But now we're gonna pivot. Not into novels just yet, but into the books that help get kids into those novels. We're talking transitional and intermediate chapter books, but not in full detail, not yet, but enough to name what they do, what they are, and why they matter so much more than people give them credit for. So let's map the terrain. Let's start with the underdogs, transitional books. These are the ones that live between read-aloud favorites and real chapter books. Yes, we're putting big sarcastic air quotes around real. They're short on purpose. They've got big fonts, plenty of white space, and chapters that don't intimidate. They've got familiar vocabulary used strategically, but don't confuse approachable with easy. Because what kids are really doing when they move past picture books? They're learning to hold the story themselves. No more page-by-page visuals, no more narrative training wheels, just them and the words. And these books step into that gap and say, you got this. And then they walk with the reader, page by page, proving it. And the best ones, they don't waste a word. These characters may not be saving kingdoms. They're just trying to survive second grade, fix a friendship, tell a truth, hold a feeling. And they scaffold more than decoding. They scaffold identity. That moment when a kid shuts the book and thinks, I did that on my own. And that's the win. That's what transitional books are built for. Because then something starts to shift. The reader's got stamina. They're holding on to plot. They have opinions about characters. In other words, they're building momentum. Welcome to intermediate chapter books. Now the sentences stretch, the emotions hit harder, and the stories don't explain everything. They trust their reader to keep up. Characters aren't just learning to say sorry. They're asking who they are, why they feel invisible, and what justice looks like. And the visuals? Mostly gone. Now the reader's in charge of building the world. They are the cinematographer, the casting director, the entire art department. These books, they expect more. They expect readers to feel tone shifts, to read between the lines, to hold questions the book might not answer right away. And this is where reading becomes reflection. Not just what happened, but how do I feel about what just happened? So let's pause here, because we spend a lot of time in education chasing reading levels. But what matters more than the number is the function of the book. Transitional books help kids practice being readers. Intermediate books help them become thinkers. You need both. And you need to know what each is doing before you can evaluate it meaningfully. So a transitional book might be short, but it might also be more emotionally grounded than a 400-page fantasy epic. An intermediate book might still have spot art, but it might also be asking the reader to hold emotional tension across 5 chapters and 2 timelines. So when you're looking at books for this module or for your classroom, don't just ask, how many pages? Is there a dragon? Are there pictures? Ask, what's this book doing for the reader? What's the level of support, as well as the level of demand? And how does it help a child see themselves as a reader? This module is where we're going to turn that corner. You're going to read across genres, you'll evaluate texts, and you'll start noticing the tiny, brilliant design decisions that make a book work for a reader at a very specific moment in their growth. And if you walk away thinking, wait, that 64-page book about a hamster funeral was actually a masterclass in pacing and reader scaffolding. Good, because it was. I'll see you next time.